Good morning. Today we are talking about nitrogen fixing bushes, and I'm going to tell you which nitrogen fixing bush I think is the most appropriate for my garden in New England. And this could be different in different places of the country, in different regions and different climates. But for me, there's one that's superior to all of the choices. So I'm going to tell you what the choices are. I'm going to tell you which one I choose and which one I feel is probably the best combination of attributes that make it really good for my situation. So there are a lot of plants that fix nitrogen, but many plants don't. And so the ones that fix nitrogen help to bring nitrogen from the air and bring it down into the soil. If you have it in place and you're not raking up the leaves every year, that's probably helpful. Also, greener parts of the plant will have more nitrogen in them than after they have turned brown. If they turn brown, the nitrogen is not really as present. So that's something to consider too. But in any case, having nitrogen fixing plants in your landscape is really important. So I'm going to talk today about bushes, so the understory plants. There are nitrogen fixing trees, there are nitrogen fixing bushes, there are nitrogen fixing ground covers, and there are nitrogen fixing climbing plants. Today we're focusing on bushes. And I'm going to focus on several different plants in a few different families. The first one I'm going to talk about is sea buckthorn. These berries are not quite as palatable fresh as some berries would be, but they are edible. They're just very citrusy. So they're high in antioxidants, very healthy for you, but they're inconvenient to harvest, because the plants are protected with thorns. So that's one downside to this particular plant. So if you're trying to work these leaves and cuttings into your soil and you're also digging in that soil with your hands, the sea buckthorn may be more trouble than you want to go to. That said, it is a perfectly acceptable and helpful plant in a landscape. You just have to take that into account when you're planting it. So another plant is the buffalo berry. Now this is native to North America. It is not great fresh. It's usually made into a preserve, once again a preserve that needs some sugar. So it's more of a tart or bitter flavor. Not quite sure how to describe it, but in any case, the good thing about the buffalo berry is that it is shade tolerant. Well, one of the good things. So it's shade tolerant. Actually prefers to grow in part shade and dappled sunlight rather than in full sun. This can be very handy in an edible landscape. So the berries are edible, but they probably need to be cooked in order to really be enjoyed. And they do produce nitrogen, so this is a really handy plant if you're looking for a shade-tolerant berry bush that fixes nitrogen. So it fits into several different niches, could be a really helpful plant for your landscape. Third is the Siberian pea shrub. Now, I've never grown the Siberian pea shrub, but from what I understand, it is invasive in my region, so I probably will not be growing it. That said, I know a lot of people who have grown it and have said this is a great plant for producing lots and lots of biomass to till back into the soil. That said, I'm not really sure it's the best plant for New England, and probably not for many areas in the United States because of that invasive tendency. You can probably find it in the wild in many places at this point, because from what I understand, it has made itself at home in the United States. So it's something that you may not even need to plant. You could just go forage some and not make the problem worse by planting it in your edible landscape. So the next three plants are actually all in the, I'm going to pronounce this wrong, so I'm just going to go for it, the Eleganus genus. So they're very similar in flavor, and in appearance. And these three plants are called the autumn olive, the Russian olive, and the Gumi. Now they are distinct plants. You're probably familiar if you live in New England or in many areas of the United States at this point. You probably have seen, maybe you don't know what it is, but you've probably seen the autumn olive. It grows along highways, it grows in fields. It has become a bit of an invasive problem in the United States, quite honestly. That said, I really love the berries, so I will forage those every year, and I will come back with 10 pounds of these berries. I feel like I'm doing the environment a favor because I'm taking berries that would otherwise probably spread. And one of the reasons that this is an invasive plant is because the seeds are easily carried by birds, and because it is nitrogen fixing, it has an advantage over a lot of these smaller. This is kind of like a halfway between a bush and a tree. It's not a low bush. It can grow to, I don't know, I've seen them. I don't know exactly how tall it can grow, but I've seen them like 15 feet, maybe even 20 feet tall. But it does tend to take over. So just something to be aware of. I would not go and plant the autumn olive personally, but I do love foraging the berries. They are an astringent flavor. And astringency, if you've never tasted it before, astringency is kind of funny. It's so the berries are sweet, but when you have a mouthful of them, it almost feels like it's drying out your mouth, which is a really peculiar feeling, and some people don't like it at all. Once you get beyond that, once you have kind of gotten used to the astringency, at least personally, I find it a very desirable berry. I freeze them. You can turn them into fruit leather. You can do all kinds of things for them. So this is as much as it is an invasive species, it is a part of my diet, and I really wouldn't want them to go away, part of me, but I do know that they're not doing good things for native species in the United States. A second plant in this family is the Russian olive. And from what I understand, I don't know the Russian olive very well, but from what I understand, this also has invasive tendencies. It's also not as tasty as the autumn olive. So if you were going to go forage for berries, I would suggest foraging for the autumn olive rather than the Russian olive. But it is an edible berry, and it is, again, a nitrogen fixing plant. So the final plant that I'm going to talk about, the final bush that I'm going to talk about, which actually has an interesting combination of all of these qualities, but is not invasive. Also in the Eleganus genus, it is the Gumi berry. Now the Gumi tastes a lot like the autumn olive, but people who like the autumn olive actually quite often will say that they like the Gumi a little better. It's a slightly larger berry, and the seed in it is large enough so you don't actually want to eat the seed, whereas with the autumn olive you can eat the seeds. So you do have to spit the seed out, but it has a cherry-like flavor. It still has some astringency to it, but it's like a sour cherry, like a pie cherry, like a Montmorency or something like that, where it's a delicious berry, and it has that nitrogen fixing quality to it. But the best thing, really, even among these plants that we're talking about, the best thing is you can plant it without fear that it's going to become invasive in your region. So you're not really contributing to any problems by bringing this plant into your yard. And of course, the buffalo berry is a native to the United States. But the Gumi it's a nitrogen fixer, very tasty fruit. Yes, you have to spit out the pits, but it's a really great addition to your landscape because it does pull nitrogen out of the air and fixes it. So that fixes it means it like holds it, so that that you can get more nitrogen into your landscape by incorporating this plant. So I am, for the first time this year, actually planting Gumi bushes. I've tried to plant them before, and I've gotten twigs, or I've gotten, actually one year I accidentally ordered goji berries instead of Gumi berries, and goji berries are terrible. They taste awful, at least to me. Some people like them. To me, they just taste awful. Some people then say, well, they're better dried. I'm like, you know, if I can't really enjoy my fruit, if I have to say that it's better if I dry it, I think I'm going to avoid it. And so I planted it. I can't get rid of this darn goji berry. I'm going to need to just dig the whole thing up at some point and hope that I can get rid of it. I've found that they're difficult to find this year. Many places are sold out of them, but you can, if you keep searching and keep going further and further down that list, you will find somebody who carries it, hopefully in your area, but if not, you probably will be able to find some online that you could purchase. So the Gumi berry, that is the direction I'm going for nitrogen fixing bushes. Having tried a lot of other things and knowing about a number of them, I'm really excited about incorporating the Gumi into my landscape this year. So that is my take on 5 different nitrogen fixing bushes that you could conceivably use for your landscape, and the one that I feel is going to be best for mine. So thank you for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed this presentation. Please give me the thumbs up. I'd love to hear your comments down below, and please don't forget to subscribe to my channel. Also, take a look at the foodforestgardenclub.org. We are getting together all the time, having a great time there, and we'd love to see you. So, thanks a lot for joining me this morning. Hope to see you tomorrow.